TRON Ares definitely went for spectacle over substance. But when you skimp on the substance and the spectacle is not that spectacular,
you're gonna have a bad time.
With a weak story based on a complete contrivance at the heart of TRON Ares, buried underneath the kind of laser show that you can catch at your local planetarium, one thought comes to mind with this movie. Just look at the pretty lights. Don't get bogged down in why anything is happening or how. Just look at these red laser beams, consumer, preferably in IMAX. Jared Leto, fresh off his successes with Suicide Squad and Morbius, plays the titular character Ares as he headlines a lineup of other similarly weak characters. And together, they bring us a story that, outside of the names and setting, has no real connection to the movie it's a sequel to. But we'll talk more about this $180 million laser show after we get in a recap of the film. So here's your spoiler warning before we upload ourselves to the grid. Set some indeterminate time after TRON Legacy, Sam Flynn has stepped away from his father's company Encom for unknown reasons. Through some unknown series of events, the Kim sisters are now running the company. One of the sisters has died, leaving Eve Kim in charge. A rival company, Dillinger Systems, is led by Julian Dillinger, a boy cavalier type of character to use a recent example from Alien Earth. He's a coding genius who's been programming and training his Ares system in the grid, with the intent of bringing him into the real world to sell as an expendable super soldier. Boy Cavalier leads a pitch meeting in front of military commanders, showcasing the soldiers and military equipment he's able to 3D print with lasers completely out of thin air. Don't question the physics of it. But there's a problem with Boy Cavalier's products. They can only exist in our world for 29 minutes on the dot. Why can't they remain in our world permanently? Why is it only 29 minutes? Because this story needs to exist, and we don't need to explain it to you. Just sit back and consume. How was another computer program, Quora, able to persist in our world in the prequel to this movie? Don't worry about it, and just forget all about TRON Legacy while you're at it. In order to keep his Ares program in our world without them decompiling after 29 minutes and keep his position at the head of the company, Boy Cavalier needs something called the Permanence Code, and wouldn't you know it, that's the very thing that Eve Kim just found with the help of her dead sister. Hearing that she's found it, Boy Cavalier sends Ares into Encom Systems to locate Eve. Ares then uses this time to deep dive into Eve's life so we can just get her and her situation, and the movie doesn't have to waste time and effort on anything messy like character development. And then Boy Cavalier 3D prints Ares and his lieutenant Athena into the real world and sends them to retrieve the Permanence Code in 29 minutes or less, like they're delivering pizza for Domino's in the 90s. When Eve is cornered, she destroys the thumb drive with the Permanence Code on it, so they move to Plan B and shoot her with a laser that sucks her onto the grid, where they plan to extract the Permanence Code from her mind, which will kill her. Ares, having shown signs of rebellious corruption in his programming, fends off Boy Cavalier's other programs and escapes with Eve into the real world, with her promising to honor his request to use the Permanence Code on him. Why does he want to be in the real world? Because he saw Rain up there once, and he has feelings and stuff. There's not much more to it than that. As Eve and Ares are rushing to find another repository that holds the Permanence Code, and bonding over Ares' invasion of Eve's privacy, Athena is dispatched to bring them back, in 29 minutes or less. And despite her flying a jet and knowing their location, she apparently can't catch up to their car. They reach the Encom tower and upload Ares into Kevin Flynn's old computer and onto the original grid created in the 80s. Athena attacks Eve and is about to finish her off when she gets distracted by water coming down from the fire sprinkler, which delays her long enough for her timer to run out. But she comes right back out of the grid, kills Boy Cavalier's mom for good measure, and heads out into the city in an airship to finish the job. Inside the 80s grid, Ares finds Kevin Flynn's hologram who can give him the Permanence Code. They discuss the true meaning of permanence, and Ares says that he likes Depeche Mode, and since he can't explain why, it must just be a feeling, and that makes him human, I guess. Kevin Flynn says that's radical, and gives him the code and sends him back into the world, where Eve is running from Athena's airship like it's Gojira. Ares finds Eve just as Athena is about to kill her for the third time, and they face off, this time with Ares' only life on the line. And now the lights on his suit and disc are blue, which is great because I, as a 4-year-old, really appreciate that the good guys and bad guys are color-coded. It makes it really easy to follow, and I don't ever have to worry about any character being complex or morally gray. It's at this moment that Encom's people nuke Dillinger's system on the grid, and now that means that Athena's on her last life, and after Ares bests her, her time runs out and she decompiles. The police show up to bring Boy Cavalier in, but he 3D prints himself out of this world and onto the grid. With the threat extinguished, Encom uses the permanence code to solve world hunger and disease and shit. Ares, now permanently here in the real world, and with no real plans for what to do with his life, is basically taking a gap year in Europe like a college kid. And in the post-credit scene, Boy Cavalier is stuck in the grid, because in modern movies, villains can't just fucking die. They need to be put on the shelf so they can come back 3 movies later. The end. The sad thing about choosing spectacle over substance like TRON Ares did is that the story behind all of the visually pleasing action scenes really doesn't add anything to the scenes. And with just about every action scene worth seeing being in one trailer or another, I can't think of any reason for you to go watch this movie. Just watch the trailers and you can pretty much get the whole experience, spending none of your money and a fraction of your time. Even if you're a Tron fan or liked Tron Legacy, with there being little to no connection to any of that in this movie, you're still not really missing anything. Unless you're just dying to see a Jeff Bridges cameo or something. They flashed a few images of Sam Flynn and Quora from the last movie, and they dropped Ares into Kevin's old arcade once. But all that and the cameo are pretty much the extent of this movie's connections to its forebearers. And whereas Tron Legacy tried to be contemplative, musing on ideas like a creator striving to build a utopia, TRON Ares barely dipped its toes into the water pixels on any of the grander ideas it played with. The characters are weak. Eve Kim could have been just about anybody. She was just a character put in charge of Encom for no reason, in the absence of the actual Tron Legacy characters that should have been in the movie. Her backstory with her dead sister is shown to us in 60 seconds through video clips, and I guess they think that's enough of a reason for us to buy into her character. There were lame story beats dropped in out of nowhere, centered on her dead sister, and they were as forced and as hollow as it gets. Boy Cavalier and Athena were just generic villains with no unique qualities to speak of. And Jared Leto as Ares wasn't as bad as it could have been. I mean, he's basically playing a robot, so his performance was on rails. But Ares' development from program to something kinda human was spastic and pretty much came out of nowhere with no rhyme or reason. He got rained on, and that just made him want to be alive for some reason. Let him live out some rain up there in Seattle for a year and he might rethink this whole permanence thing. And what was it with falling water? The rain broke Ares out of his programming, and the fire sprinkler is what almost did the same thing to Athena. That thread was never picked up, explained, or explored further. And heaven forbid if any of these characters see a waterfall, they might have blown a laser load all over the screen. The music from 9 Inch Nails was pretty good, but I don't think it took over the movie, and it definitely didn't save this movie from its shortcomings. And I've always liked Tron as a visual, abstract representation for what's going on within a computer system. Like imagining and visualizing hacking a system as a bunch of little invaders breaking into a digital fortress. That stuff is cool, but there's not much of it in Ares. That all being said, this movie was just mid. I don't think it's as bad as some people are making it out to be. But its best moments, all of the visual flair this movie is relying on, were serviceable at best, and I don't think any of it was memorable in the slightest. Clearly Disney's initial thought process for this movie was just sit back and look at the pretty lights, and the idea never progressed past that point. As of this writing, TRON Ares is currently sitting at a disheartening audience rating of 86% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's getting a 5.5 from viewers on Metacritic. It's too early for hard numbers, but Tron is expected to pull in about $40 million at the box office its opening weekend domestically, and it's expected to match that number internationally. So it should be a tough climb to reach profitability, unless people get distracted by the pretty lights. Personally, TRON Ares gets a hate watch from me, because I can't really think of anything you'll get out of seeing this movie that you can't get from the trailers. And I'd rate the movie in the 4 to 5 range. TRON Ares just feels like an instance where a studio needs to make something so they don't lose the rights to an IP. Ares has no serious connection to the movies that came before it, and it would serve as a pretty flimsy launching pad for future stories. Maybe I'm thinking too small, and this is all some deep-level psyop to prove that the modern consumer, like a cat, can fall for some pretty lasers being passed off as a movie. Either way, the end result is the same as far as I'm concerned. Because I'm saying don't waste your money, don't waste your time, and catch the best scenes this movie has to offer in the YouTube trailers. Did you check out TRON Ares? Did you want a sequel after TRON Legacy? Should they have done more to connect this movie to that one? Let me know in the comments below. And remember to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to Hatewatchers for reviews of other current shows and movies. Thank you for getting this review done in 29 minutes or less, and I'll catch you on the next one.